With the recent success of What If Deku Had Sukuna's powers, as well as my failure to complete my What If Deku Had Gojo series almost 4 years ago, I thought it would be fun as well as perfect to come back and redo What If Deku Had Gojo's powers. I hope you all do enjoy this video. Please comment your what if suggestions down the comment section below, and enjoy. A slash cuts through the air, ripping through the center of a body as it thumps to the floor, their eyes slowly fading into a soft gray. We see Izuku jump up from his bed, screaming in terror. He's crying, he's in tears. He had another nightmare. However, this time was different. Inko comes rushing into his room, banging the door down, racing in as she looks towards Izuku, asking him what is wrong. However, piercing blue eyes seem to almost cut through her soul. She gasps in shock, jumping back a little bit. Oh my gosh, Izuku! His once deep green eyes had completely transformed into that of the six eyes that Gojo had once had, very similar to it. As Izuku looks towards his mother, she is shocked. Izuku's eyes now completely different. She walks over to him sitting on his bed. This is but the second time that this month Izuku has had a nightmare extremely similar to this. He's woken her up multiple times this year alone with just screaming, talking about a white-haired man. However, this time was different. Izuku said this white-haired man died. He died in his dream, and he felt an eerie sort of connection to him. Inko would just shake her head, softly flowing her fingers through Izuku's hair, telling him that it will be alright, and just not to worry anymore. Izuku sat there with tears flowing down his face, clenching his mother's arms, clenching her shirt, almost ripping through it with how hard he was gripping it. Izuku had these dreams so many times, and each time it seemed like he could remember more and more, up until this. The person that he had been dreaming about since he could remember, since he was almost 2 years old, was now gone. And these dreams would all but stop with this for a large part of Izuku's childhood. He would grow up pretty normal, as everyone would just suspect his quirk had awakened that night, being those blue eyes. They weren't exactly sure what they did. Maybe his quirk could change his eye color, who knows. However, that wouldn't really change anything. Izuku wanted to be a hero extremely bad, and he wasn't gonna let anything stop that. However, on a very, very late night one time, when Izuku was 7 years old, he lay in his bed restless, sweating. He's kicking the sheets off of himself. He can't go to sleep. He's 7 years old, and all he can think about is how his quirk is blue eyes, and how he can even use it for his quirk. Because Izuku hasn't really tapped into his large cursed energy reserves, the six eyes aren't really working for Izuku for some reason. He can't really see and use that cursed energy despite the six eyes working to allow Izuku to use it so well. And because of that, Izuku doesn't really know what is going on. However, all of a sudden he starts closing his eyes, and he can start viewing the world around him as cursed energy. The six eyes awakened in a very sort of visual sense, but not in a spiritual and power sense. They hadn't fully emerged within Izuku just yet. And so as he laid there in bed, closing his eyes and starting to be able to visualize the world around him in cursed energy, he somehow manages to doze off. And this is where the dreams start to begin once again. Izuku starts dreaming about Gojo once more, this mysterious blindfolded white-haired man using all of these incredible techniques, using these powerful things around him with cursed energy. As Izuku dreams day by day even more, every single dream getting more intense, it's as if he's learning, he's watching. It's like he's watching film for a sports team. He watches Gojo intently, watching him use the cursed energy, watching him do all of this. As we see years and years pass, Izuku's dreams continue to become more vivid as he sees all of these energies being used. And slowly over time, Izuku starts to try and use these abilities as well. He has seen multiple times that this person has very similar eyes to him. And so maybe they're connected, maybe they have a similar quirk. And because of that, Izuku starts trying to use cursed energy, and it comes natural to him. He practices able to use and manipulate it, putting it around his fist, allowing him to punch. Here we see him unlock just these incredibly sort of hard techniques, especially for someone so young to be able to use, with cursed energy reinforcement, reverse cursed technique, all of these energies being able to be used by Izuku. And as he learns and learns, he ends up unlocking all of the techniques, including Limitless, Infinity. You have Lapse Blue, Reversal Red, all of these techniques Izuku unlocks, and he continues to train it. He becomes extremely powerful. However, he doesn't have very much experience. He can practice all he wants in the woods right by his house, but that doesn't really do much for him. So he starts to view all of his dreams as sort of a training technique, a training for him. He watches intently. It's as if Gojo is showing him himself how to use these powers. And so Izuku would end up being placed in a separate school than his normal school. Inko, seeing Izuku have this potential to use powers and really want to use them, she places him in a private middle school, a middle school that builds you up to be a hero, sort of a UA middle school type area. And because of that, Izuku is able to train his quirk there with teachers around as well. Well, not his quirk, train his cursed energy with teachers around. So with all of these middle school trainings coming and going, and Izuku graduating middle school, we see him walking around the random cities that he would come to love to roam. He's walking around as he goes over an overpass, or under an overpass, and he sees and hears gurgling. We see and look on to see Bakugo Katsuki rushing down the sludge, creeping down his throat. He's reaching out, trying to pull the sludge villain off of him. However, the sludge villain continues, looking on towards him, just smiling, taunting him. Yeah, that's right. I love a struggle, the sludge villain says to Bakugo as he reaches down, trying to rip off the sludge from him, trying to cough it up, but it's no use. Izuku, seeing this as he looks on, looking towards this villain, his eyes piercing through it. The villain sees him almost in a shock, recoiling back, the eyes of crystal blue almost shocking him even. Izuku decides now would be the perfect time to try and use part of his Limitless technique that he has been so closely watching and learning. He uses Lapse Blue, creating this sort of wave of this black hole almost thing, sucking the sludge villain away out of Bakugo. As the sludge villain gets sent flying backwards, Izuku looks on, reaching down towards Bakugo, asking if he's alright, but Bakugo just pushes himself off of Izuku. I don't need your help. Get away from me, he says, almost in a sort of embarrassed tone. He had just seen someone completely and utterly dominate the sludge villain that he was struggling to do anything against. The Lapse Blue that Izuku had used sent the sludge villain flying away. As Izuku looks on towards Bakugo running away, he shrugs his shoulders. Oh well. He looks towards his fingers, wondering, I didn't think I could manage to replicate that so well, clenching his fist, smiling. Yeah, I'm gonna become a hero, and I'm gonna be the dang strongest hero too. Izuku says this as he continues walking down the path. However, something stops him. A giant villain in his way once more. Not only had he encountered the sludge villain, but he now encounters another villain. A villain towering over him, staring towards him. He lifts up his foot as if going to just stomp on Izuku. However, Izuku dodges out of the way. "You're gonna have to try harder than that to hit me," Izuku says, jumping up, cursed energy right on his fist. He goes in right towards this giant creature staring at him as he punches him, and within a millisecond, he uses Black Flash, sending a giant, devastating punch right into this monster's chest, sending him flying back into a building, knocking him out unconscious. As Izuku lands on the ground, we see Mountain Lady rush over along with Kamui Woods rushing over as well. They see the villain knocked out, however crushing half of a building, as they look towards Izuku whistling walking down the road. They rush over to him asking if they saw who did that to the hero, as Izuku shrugs his shoulders. Or what happened to that villain, with Izuku shrugging his shoulders. Yeah, I don't know. He came at me, so I had to use my quirk to defeat him. Is what it is, Izuku says, shrugging his shoulders once more before going to leave. However, Mount Lady places a firm hand on his shoulder. "Little boy, you have to understand, you can't use your quirk in public." Izuku looks towards her once more. What was I supposed to do? Just let that thing kill me? That is a good point, Kamui says, staring towards Mount Lady, as Mount Lady sighs. Okay. I'll let you off with a warning, but it's just because I don't want to have to deal with the paperwork of this. I'll just say I defeated him, okay? Izuku looks towards her, laughing. "Whatever floats your boat, Mount Lady," before walking off once more. She looks towards him, honestly, in almost shock. Kamui looking towards her as well. Wait, he knew who we were? And he didn't want a picture? Who is this kid? They think to themselves before walking off, taking care of the villain. Izuku gets home as his mother greets him, with Inko laughing to herself. "Did you get in another fight again?" she says, as Izuku just shakes his head. "No, some villain tried to come at me." "Wait, what?" Inko says, raising her voice. A villain? You're gonna tell me that you managed to defeat a villain? You're barely 14 years old." Izuku laughs to himself. "Mom, how many times have I told you I'm strong, and I'm strong as hell at that. No easy thug is going to be able to take me out." Izuku's almost subtle, arrogant confidence within him taking hold as Inko just sighs. "Oh, Izuku, you better be ready for that UA entrance exam." Izuku laughs to himself. "Ready? Of course, I'm ready right now. I've been ready for 5 years," Izuku says almost out loud to himself, with Inko shaking her head once again. "Little brat, so arrogant." "At least he can back it up," she says, sighing to herself. We cut forward a couple of months as it is now time for the UA entrance exam. Izuku walking in, cracking his fingers, extremely excited. His entire life has been built up for this, and he simply can't wait. He walks into the building, taking the written portion with ease, before walking off towards the hero portion of the test. He walks in to see that the gates have already begun opening. He instantly rushes in, jumping over the crowd, racing towards the robots, easily destroying them with just his hands. His strength alone rivals some of the strongest heroes there is. For some reason, Izuku is able to have this immense strength, and not only that, his martial arts abilities are on the top of the food chain as well. All those years of watching Gojo dominate and train, it was as if Izuku had been training as well. It was as if everything came natural to him. It was almost as if he's done these things before. And because of that, because of the nature and how easy it was for him, he was easily able to unlock most of Gojo's abilities. He can use them like he is Gojo himself. So with each 3-pointer, 5-pointer, and 2-pointer robot rushing at him, Izuku easily is able to destroy them with barely any cursed energy at that. However, as Izuku is gathering up points, raking them up, with the heroes staring on in shock, this kid is insane, they think to themselves. However, this is when Nezu slams his fist down onto a giant red button. Alright, let's see how he fends off against this, he says with a sly smirk on his face. Izuku looks up as he hears rumbling. A giant zero-pointer robot is racing down towards him. It reaches over the city, grabbing hold of the building tops, crumbling them beneath its bare hands. It is easily staring on towards Izuku, rushing towards him. However, we hear a girl cry out for help. Uraraka. Izuku looks on, racing towards her, seeing her leg trapped underneath rubble. Izuku lifts up the boulder, easily looking on towards anyone, as everyone is stuck motionless, stuck within their own feet. It was as if their legs had become cement. They couldn't move, tied down to the ground in fear, many of them shaking, anxious as they stared on. The robot completely blocking out the sun as a giant shadow takes hold of the city. Izuku looks up as well, seeing the robot, its fist clenched, coming, barreling down towards him. As Izuku grabs Uraraka, picking her up, racing off away as he puts her down towards the crowd. He looks up towards the robot before smiling. Well, I've never actually been able to practice this before. Let's see if I can get this right. Izuku starts saying words as hollow technique purple emerges, his fingers outstretched, reaching towards the robot as a giant purple orb of energy consumes the city, reaching out towards that zero-pointer robot. It's spiraling, its destructive energy destroying anything in its way as it hits the robot dead on, completely eviscerating it. All of the UA teachers now are shocked. They're standing up out of their seats, their jaws on the floor. What the hell was that? Some of them say out loud. This power was unreal. It was insane, and they couldn't believe it. This kid was a prodigy. He had to be, they thought to themselves. All of the students now looking there in shock as well. They haven't been around heroes. They don't know true power. So seeing Izuku standing there, his fingers outstretched after the robot completely destroyed by hollow purple, they had never seen anything like it. The horn sounds as Izuku begins walking away. Many of the students looking towards him, stepping back. What the hell was that? Izuku just looks towards him. Just a little technique of mine. I've been working on it, he says as some of the students just shake their heads. Oh, little technique of mine. Okay, Mr. Cocky over here. Izuku walks out of UA with his hands behind his head and a smirk on his face. He's walking, strolling, whistling. He is confident. He knows that his display of power will surely be enough to slot himself in as one of the top students of Class 1A. As Izuku's walking out, Uraraka catches up with him. She looks towards him, placing a hand on his shoulder. Hey, I didn't get a chance to thank you last time. Izuku looks on towards her, putting his hand up. Oh, it's no sweat at all. I saw you were in trouble and I knew I had to rescue you, Izuku says as Uraraka blushes. Thank you, she says, stuttering as Izuku continues walking. Uraraka looks like she had something else to say, but didn't have the time, with Izuku continuing to walk away. As Izuku manages to get home, Inko sits anxiously by, sitting at the kitchen counter. She stands up, seeing the doorknob rattle and jiggle as Izuku walks in. She reaches towards him, jumping into his arms, hugging him. So, how'd it go? I'm so proud of you either way, she says, her thoughts and words racing, intertwining with each other, almost mixing, as Izuku puts his hands up. Calm down, Mom, calm down. It went really well, I'd say. definitely, he says, rolling his eyes as tears well up in hers. Oh, Izuku, I knew you'd make it. I knew it, she says, with Izuku retiring back to his room. A couple of weeks pass as Izuku ends up getting a letter in the mail along with a package. This package, of course, being his UA uniform, with the letter saying, "Congratulations, Izuku Midori, you have been accepted into Class 1A of the UA Hero School." Izuku smiles, looking on towards the letter, before he eagerly puts the uniform on, racing off towards his first day of class. As Izuku arrives, he sits down right next to Uraraka, the same girl that he had met at the UA entrance exam. He greets her and asks her how her leg is doing as she chuckles. "Oh, it's doing better." Izuku laughs, sitting down before looking on. He scans the room looking for anyone that he thinks could rival his ability, someone that could show him and finally push him to his limits, so that he could finally show and have fun truly going beyond. As Izuku's sitting there, however, he can't quite seem to sense anybody that could possibly do that and rival him, so he just sits back on his desk, putting his feet up, looking around, just confused and honestly quite bored. That was until Katsuki Bakugo walks into the room. Izuku sits up for a moment, almost like spitting out coffee almost type expression. He looks up towards Bakugo in shock. "Wait a minute," he points to him, saying out loud, "Aren't you that kid I saved from that one villain?" Bakugo, almost embarrassed, tells Izuku to shut up, as Izuku just laughs. Yeah, you are that kid. What happened after that? I didn't even get a thank you from you." The kid walks up to Izuku's desk, placing an explosion right onto it, burning a little mark into the desk. "Listen, kid, when I tell you to shut up, you shut up." Izuku just laughs, pointing his finger in his face. "Wow, so quick to anger. I see nothing's changed in the past couple of months." "I guess you must be somewhat strong considering you got into Class 1A, but I mean, you couldn't take down the sludge villain." Izuku almost rage-baiting, pushing Bakugo's buttons as explosions spark from the two of his hands. He's foaming at the mouth in anger. "Listen to me." He stops. Aizawa walks into the room. "Sit down," he says in a stern, serious tone and voice. Bakugo sighs, sitting back down in his chair, with Izuku also straightening up his posture. "Alright, class. Today we're going to begin with a quick quirk apprehension test. I don't want anybody doing anything stupid, or else." Aizawa says, his tone getting even more dark and serious as all of the students begin walking towards the locker rooms to put on their uniforms. They meet Aizawa down at the testing lot he told them to meet him at, as they all look towards each other, looking around, wondering who could possibly be the strongest or have the coolest quirk, as everyone in such a big city hadn't managed to see Izuku's very easy display of power. As Izuku stands there, he's cracking his neck and cracking his knuckles, getting ready to test his quirk. As Izuku's standing there, Aizawa tosses him a baseball. "Alright, Izuku. All the teachers managed to see your display at the UA entrance exam, so why don't you go ahead and show me what you really have. Show me that you can use your quirk in different ways." Izuku nods his head as he places cursed energy into his hand, cocking back his arm, releasing the ball, sending it flying into the air. It goes flying away, with Izuku just watching in awe. The ball going thousands of meters into the distance, almost with a little shine in the horizon like it was Team Rocket blasting off away. So with that, Izuku smiles, going back to his group, talking with Uraraka as Aizawa continues to pass the ball around. Bakugo getting 700 meters, Todoroki getting around 500. With each passing student, the ball seems to be going less and less far, up until Mineta, when he accidentally spikes the ball right into the ground, getting a total of 0 meters. Aizawa shakes his head, sighing. Nice try, Mineta. Alright, our next part of the quick test is going to be a test of speed. Also, I'll have that ball be a test of strength, per se, but this test of speed will see your leg muscles in action. So, I need all of you to line up here. We are going to race off towards that finish line. Aizawa points into the distance. And ready, 3, 2, 1, set, go. He says, instantly clicking on his stopwatch as everyone looks confused except a couple students racing off. Izuku, lightning fast speed, racing off, his arms flapping at his sides, racing, sprinting towards the finish line, crossing it first with ease. Bakugo, Todoroki, Kirishima, Momo, all of these students passing after him as they finish. Aizawa clocks each person's time as he then slots them onto a board. Alright, in a fun game of rivalry and competition, I've decided to rank all of you. Here at the top, we have Izuku. On second, I'm gonna go with Todoroki here. Third, I'll give it to Momo. Fourth, Ida. Fifth, Bakugo. Sixth, Wait. Bakugo says, interrupting Aizawa. What do you mean I'm fifth? Aizawa sighs, rolling his eyes. Bakugo, I have my reasons, and very, very strongly, you just don't give off hero vibes, and I'm gonna say that knocks you down quite a far and heavy peg. Bakugo looks on in shock and confusion. What? No, that's just not right. Well, if it's not right, then prove it to me, he says, as they all walk off with the day coming to an end. Bakugo as the 5th ranked member of Class 1A. Bakugo extremely furious by this. If it's measured by strength, surely he should be first, and one of the top students in the entire school at that. So, as everyone goes home, Izuku thinks to himself what they could possibly be doing in the next couple of weeks. These weeks would go and fly on by until it was time for their hero class. Within those couple of weeks, Izuku had managed to design his hero costume, and lo and behold, of course, he goes with a blindfold and the Gojo outfit. All his life, he had dreamed about this mysterious figure, and now he was going to basically give homage to him by copying his outfits. It almost just seemed natural and right to do so. So with that, Izuku would walk into class to see this briefcase sitting on his desk. He opens it up, seeing his hero costume, lo and behold, right before him. As Bakugo walks in and the rest of the class, they all open up their briefcases, seeing their hero costumes before them. However, as the last student sits down, All Might bursts through the door, 5 minutes late, of course, as the door flies off of its hinges, splintering, the wood going everywhere, flying even towards some of the students, as he yells, "I am here." Many of the students look on in shock, sparkles in their eyes. This is the #1 hero, All Might. That is awesome, many of them think to themselves, as All Might stands up at the front of the class. Alright, Class 1A, are you ready for your first hero class? Many of them stand up in excitement, pumping their fists. Yeah, they say, as he tells them to go put their hero costumes on and to go towards the city where they are going to be training. As Izuku and everyone walks down to the locker rooms putting on their hero costumes, Izuku's gets some weird looks. He's hiding his eyes, a blindfold, really? Many of them honestly just confused. However, Izuku sees this as an opportunity to practice his curse technique, practice using that 6 eyes ability so that he can view the world around him in almost an infrared sort of sense, viewing it as cursed energy. As Izuku walks over, seeing everyone in their costumes, as All Might looks towards him. Blindfold, young Midoriya? Quite uncharacteristic, I might say, but good choice. I say it does suit you quite well. Izuku nods his head, thanking him as we see the groups being made. Izuku would end up being placed on the team by himself for some reason. All Might chuckling to himself, deciding rather to place Bakugo, Todoroki, and Kirishima all against Izuku. A 3v1. Alright, Aizawa filled me in on your sort of rankings, and I wanted it to be quite a fair match. I wanted to have a little fun, might I add. So, with that, our first portion of this hero vs. villains exam is going to be Izuku versus Bakugo, Todoroki, and Kirishima. All of the students look on confused. Oh my, you can't seriously put 3 people against just Izuku. That's just not fair. Izuku cracks his fingers and his neck along with it. Oh, don't bother. This should be easy, he says, as many of the students look confused at Izuku. Please, you can't be that cocky and arrogant in your own abilities. Izuku just gives a smirk, giving a thumbs up towards them. With that, Izuku walks off as the villains end up being Izuku in this case. All Might made it so that the heroes would be Bakugo, Kirishima, and Todoroki, to make it so Izuku had even more of a disadvantage. All they had to do was touch the device or easily put tape around Izuku, and they would win. So with Izuku at a harsh disadvantage, he walks around the building, leaving the device alone, knowing that it should be fine. He just has to find them before they find it. Izuku walking the lonely halls as he sees and hears ice crackling in front of him. Todoroki comes sliding on in, going towards him, going to send an easy iceberg right in the hall, making sure that Izuku couldn't dodge. However, he very easily just punches through this ice, grabbing Todoroki by the neck, who couldn't stop in time. Izuku slams Todoroki right into the ground, not even having to use cursed energy. Todoroki knocked unconscious by this, spitting up blood out of his mouth. He hadn't been expecting Izuku to so easily counter his ice. As Izuku sees this, Kirishima comes rushing around the corner, yelling, "Ah!" he says, hardening his arms, reaching down, going to punch Izuku, punching him in the chest, but it doesn't do much. Izuku managing to use that reinforcement of the cursed energy within himself to manage to subdue most of that damage. As Izuku looks towards Kirishima and punches him with cursed energy on his fist, causing some of Kirishima's harden to start cracking and peeling off. He falls back, looking towards his cork, cracking, and almost in a look of shock. What? How? This has never happened before, he says in a look of panic, with Izuku smiling. Well, maybe you've just never been punched this hard, Izuku says, punching him once again with cursed energy right in the face, knocking him out as well. Izuku stands up, looking around, wondering what is going to happen next, until he ends up hearing sparks flying. Bakugo seething around the hallway, seething. He had waited. This was his plan. He planned for Todoroki and Kirishima to easily get knocked out, and so that he could have a 1v1 with Izuku. So with that, Izuku stares on towards Bakugo, looking at him almost with a smirk on his face. "So are you gonna go for an attack or what?" Izuku says, as Bakugo comes flying in, his explosions flying on towards Izuku, each explosion easily being managed to dodge. As Izuku dodges each explosion, his body twirling like he's a ballerina inside the hallway. You'd think he'd be at a disadvantage with Bakugo's explosion quirk in such a cramped space. However, Izuku is very easily dodging it. He's using the hallway like he's a master at using wall jumps. Every single blow Izuku manages to dodge. It's almost like he's toying with him. All Might stares in shock at the intercom and at the TV screen. The CCTV cameras look and zoom in on Izuku and Bakugo's fight, and every single blow Izuku manages to dodge. That was finally until Bakugo had enough. Bakugo, seething with rage and anger. I'll show you. I'll prove to them that I'm the #1 hero in Class 1A. He reaches out his grenade launcher as he pulls the pull tab. A giant explosion coming towards Izuku. However, it never reaches him. Izuku using Infinity to block the attack. As this space infinitely divides, the explosion never reaching him. It hits this wall almost as a giant explosion shoots out right behind Izuku, exploding half of the building. Bakugo looks in shock. What? He reaches up his other grenade gauntlet, using it once more. However, it doesn't work again, hitting that wall and blowing up all the stuff behind it. Izuku laughs towards Bakugo. You really thought your ultimate move would hit me? He says, teleporting almost right behind Bakugo in this space. He looks towards Bakugo before punching him in the head with cursed energy before deciding to use Reversal Red. He creates this red orb on his finger before shooting it right at Bakugo. This tiny orb instantly blinds everything, sending so much flying away as Bakugo gets sent halfway across the city, flying into a building unconscious. Izuku dusts off his hands, looking down towards both Todoroki and Kirishima. Picking them up, he brings them back to where All Might was and where Recovery Girl was waiting, as he goes and gets Bakugo as well, placing them all on top of each other almost in a sort of braggy sense. Was that it? Izuku says, looking towards All Might, as All Might just laughs kind of nervously. Yeah, good job, young Midoriya, he says, trying to change his tone, as Izuku sits there and watches, of course getting an A+ for his efforts. As the rest of Izuku's classmates come and go with their types and with their tests, their hero versus villain tests, Izuku sees that no one's quirks are quite as remarkable as his. He has been searching for years for someone to rival him, and it still hasn't happened. So with that, Izuku and all the classmates cut forward to see that they had finished and have long since gone home. Weeks, of course, end up passing as well, as it is finally time for the USJ arc. Izuku and his classmates get into their hero costumes as everybody walks onto the bus, Aizawa taking attendance before the bus speeds off towards the USJ. 13 would meet them outside the building, raising her hand, greeting all of them as she would then walk in, opening the doors, seeing this giant arena with so many different areas that they could go to. As everyone is marveling at this, they are completely shocked. They had no idea that UA had this kind of budget. It was remarkable. They look on, seeing all of the different arenas before their attention is cut short. A portal begins erupting out of the center right by the fountain as villains start flooding out. The portal continues to largen as villains keep seeping out of it. They all look towards the UA students, smiles and maniacal grimaces on their face. They can't believe it. They finally get to attack these stupid, cocky hero students. Izuku, seeing all of this, is in shock, just like all of his classmates. He simply can't believe it. UA is getting attacked by villains, he thinks to himself. As he sits there, Aizawa jumps forward along with 13, yelling for all of them to get back. However, Izuku doesn't listen. He jumps forward before Kirogiri can open the portal, sending out his classmates across the different arenas as Izuku jumps down right before Aizawa could, right in front of him. Aizawa yells for Izuku, reaching out towards his scarf, but he just barely misses. Izuku landing in the middle of the pile of villains as he smiles to himself. Finally, he thinks, time for some real fun. All of the villains instantly turn towards him and begin racing at him, each of their quirks at the ready. However, Izuku, being extremely smart and knowing how to create battle strategies on the fly, knew that all of these people trying to use their quirks in such a heavy group would not go very well. It wouldn't work, and a lot of the times it would just end up doing more harm than good to each other. So, with Izuku knowing this, he jumps on in. All of these villains coming at him, trying to use their quirks, with many of them ending up hurting the ones around him. And if not, Izuku would be there to punch them. Almost in a scene straight out of a movie, Izuku jumping down lands and begins punching, fighting all of them, dodging each one of their blows. As Shigaraki watches this, a student doing this? I'm impressed, he thinks to himself, as Izuku jumps around, easily managing to defeat so many of these villains. Aizawa jumping down as well, fighting all of them. However, Shigaraki would have enough. He didn't want this thing to go on any longer. He knew he had to take out Izuku if he wanted his plan to take down All Might for the USJ would work. So he reaches out his long, dangly finger, pointing at Izuku. Nomu, he says in his scratchy, raspy voice. You see that green-haired freak? The one with the blindfold? Kill him, he says. The Nomu screeches, pounding his chest like he's some sort of gorilla, rushes off, just sort of pushing all of the other villains in his way out before punching, landing a blow right into Izuku's stomach, sending him flying backwards right into the stairs that he had once leapt from. The stairs crumble beneath Izuku as he jumps up. The attack barely did anything. The cursed energy reinforcement had managed to negate most of that damage. As Izuku stands up, cracking his fingers, smiling. Oh, finally. Finally someone I can have fun with, he thinks to himself. Jumping towards the Nomu once more, cursed energy at the ready with his hands. As he lets this cursed energy fly, punching the Nomu rapidly with this energy, causing the Nomu to screech off in pain and agony. These punches and the power that Izuku put behind them was something that the Nomu had never experienced before. And it was so bad that even its regeneration quirk was struggling to keep up. Izuku's rapid-fire punches would end with a black flash right to the Nomu's stomach, piercing through it, barely missing its heart. As we see the heart pumping blood, causing the organs to end up slowly regenerating, filling that gap and that void that Izuku had just punched. This regeneration quirk was turning the Nomu almost into Izuku's perfect punching bag. However, Izuku was starting to get bored of it. He sees the Nomu reach off, trying to grab Aizawa, as Izuku grabs the Nomu's arms and rips it off of the Nomu easily. And the Nomu screeches in pain, grabbing the stump where its arm should have been, as Shigaraki's mouth hits the floor. What the hell? How? How could he have done that? He thinks in shock and in awe, as Izuku creates another reversal red on his finger, spinning it, shooting it right at the Nomu as it lands directly, sending the Nomu flying through the ceiling of the USJ, flying off just somewhere else. As Shigaraki sees this, sees that Izuku had defeated the Nomu, he tells Kirogiri that it's time to go. However, Izuku doesn't let him. He instantly activates his domain expansion, saying, "Domain expansion, unlimited void," his fingers up by his eyes, as Shigaraki is left just completely without thoughts. So many things are filling his mind and he can't move. He's completely stuck where he is. Izuku walks towards him, looking at him. You really thought you could get away from me that easily? He says, looking towards him. Shigaraki just completely stuck in the domain expansion, just in utter shock. He had no idea. The only thought he could feel was that thought of being helpless. As he sits there and just wondering what the hell is going on, Izuku looks towards him once more. I know I shouldn't do this, but I'll let you go this time. Think of it as a warning. Don't come back, and don't try to fight Yue, he says, releasing the domain expansion, allowing Shigaraki to fall through Kirogiri's portal. With that, Izuku sees Aizawa sitting around a group of defeated villains who are all knocked out. Aizawa sitting on them, breathing heavy, as 13 had somehow gotten injured and was laying there unconscious. Aizawa looking towards her, seeing the void coming out of her as he duct tapes her suit shut. This is a PR nightmare, he says, looking on around as explosions and all sorts of fire erupts the USJ. Look, Izuku. Please just help me find the rest of your classmates and get them out safe. Izuku nods his head as both him and Aizawa split up, going around and gathering all of Izuku's classmates. They managed to gather them up before they had managed to escape. With Shigaraki using Kirogiri to run, Ida had managed to escape, allowing for the rest of the UA teachers to find out about the USJ, and they would also rush off there to be of help. With the USJ event fading and all of the UA students safe and sound, we cut to see the League of Villains hideout. Shigaraki clenching a water bottle in his hand. He's shaking. He still cannot process and believe what Izuku had done. You don't understand, Master, he says towards the TV screen. This kid, no, this freak, he said some words and all of a sudden it was as if I was in space, staring at a black hole, but yet I couldn't think. I couldn't do anything. All of my thoughts and actions, all I will ever and could ever be. They were flooding my mind, everything, all this useless information. It's unreal. You have no idea. His master would look towards him again. Really? This cork? Do you think it's worth me trying to steal it? Shigaraki nods his head. Yes, you have to. If he's standing in our way, then we won't be able to win. Interesting. I'll choose to believe you on this one. However, I want to see it with my own two eyes. So until then, we shall see. We cut back to see Izuku and all of his classmates in the classroom once again. Aizawa profusely apologizing for the villain attack that had occurred. They in no way could have predicted that was going to happen, and from now on they were going to be doing everything and anything in their power to prevent another villain attack from occurring in the future. So with that, we see all of the students walk back towards their homes with another set of weeks coming and going. The students continually train as they get stronger and stronger until it is time for the UA Sports Festival. With the UA Sports Festival on the horizon, all of the students walk into class. They all are excited and jittery. They can't wait. Both Todoroki and Bakugo see this as a time to finally move up in the rankings. Todoroki still at that number 2 spot, with Bakugo having actually moved down due to his sort of weak display versus Izuku in the Heroes vs. Villains trial. So with that, we end up seeing all of them walk in to the Coliseum. The crowds jump up and cheer, raging on, loving the energy, loving all of the UA students. They can't wait to see all of the new quirks at play. As Izuku and everyone walk in, they see a chart up on the giant Jumbotron. It is a chart ranking all of the first year students from 1A, 2A, and even, or not 2A, 1A, 1B, 1C, and even 1D even. All of the students competing in the first year sports festival. So with Izuku and everyone seeing this, and Izuku of course seeing himself at the top, he smiles to himself. Someone's always gotta be number 1, he thinks arrogantly, as he ends up hearing that the first event is the obstacle course. He smiles with all of the students racing off to go to the obstacle area. They stand on the finish line waiting as the clock strikes down. 3, 2, 1. The crowd cheers before a giant go is heard, blaring as Midnight yells it. Go! She says, the students racing off. Izuku decides to use just a sort of hidden technique that he had managed to learn. Because of him being able to almost manipulate the space using Limitless, he was able to pretty much teleporting to where he could see the 3 robots towering over him. He had managed to get a small glimpse of this on the bus ride over to the Coliseum and wanted to show off a little bit. So as he saw this, he creates a lapse blue, a black hole, putting all of this limitless energy into this ball, sending it flying towards the 3 robots. This black hole, almost sort of energy, completely allows them to get sucked into it, sucked into each other, destroying all 3 of them at once. The crowd sees Izuku doing this so quickly, cheers in excitement, looking towards the board, seeing him in the first ranking spot as well. They know this kid is something special. Izuku easily passes the finish line. As Izuku waves his hands, the crowd cheers. We cut to see a mysterious dark figure staring on at a blank screen. Teleportation and then almost a attraction quirk. This kid's powers. You're right, Shigaraki. This kid is quite something. However, I might just have to see him in person to prove anything. Alright, let's begin planning something. Something big, he says, as we cut back to the sports festival. Students trickle on in, continuing to pass the race, passing in a multitude of different places. With that, we see the next event in the UA Sports Festival being the cavalry battle. Izuku stands there looking for his team before picking Uraraka, Ida, and Mei Hatsume. They all were on his team and ready to compete. Izuku with a 10 million point headband at that. Are you ready, Izuku? Izuku smiles. Yup, he says, responding to Uraraka. I have a feeling everyone's gonna come targeting me, especially having those 2 number 1s on my back. So, be prepared, guys. Let's do this. We got this, Izuku says, trying to lift up his team as the horn sounds. His team looking around, seeing all of the other cavalry battle teams racing off towards him. Izuku barely manages to dodge all of their coming attacks, hands reaching out, grasping towards Izuku's headband, with Izuku dodging each one, his head and his back bending and molding around each of these hands before placing cursed energy on his hands, using it as he punches each one of these teams. His punches so strong that he sends many of them flying off their cavalry, making sure that they would be out of the race for that 10 million point headband. Izuku continuing to do this, ensuring that no one would be able to be in his way and to get that headband. And because of that, Izuku would keep it. He would ensure his team's success as the buzzer sounds. Izuku's team in first place. So with that, we now see the 1v1 tournament brackets appearing. The bracket this time, however, instead of being done on placement, is done off of rankings. So, of course, Izuku being the 1 seed would still end up facing off against Shinso, the last seed. As Izuku looks towards him, looking on, seeing him, his sort of almost purplish hair and his dark eyes, he knows something is awry, something is wrong. This guy, this kid, he's never even heard of him before. Possibly he must be in classes 1C. And because of that, Izuku is instantly untrustworthy of the kid. He doesn't want to trust him. Something feels off with him. And so Izuku doesn't. He looks towards him, looking at him, knowing that this had to be quick. The horn sounds with Izuku racing towards him, rushing at him. He tries to block Shinso, pleading with him to answer his questions, but Izuku doesn't. If this kid is only trying to get him to answer questions, then it has to be some sort of power involved with that. And so Izuku instantly crushes Shinso's hopes of being a hero and getting bumped up to those hero classes, easily taking him out with a single punch. All Shinso's time he had spent preparing this sort of technique to blindside his opponent by getting them to answer a question, Izuku had easily taken all of that out. He should have been working on his strength and hand-to-hand combat skills as well, and Izuku made sure that Shinso knew that. So, with Izuku taking Shinso out, we see that his next opponent would, funnily enough, be Uraraka. Izuku smiles, looking towards her as he wishes her the best of luck. The two of them walk up onto the podium as Izuku looks towards her, getting his fists ready. "You ready, Uraraka?" he yells across the arena as she says yes, nodding her head. Izuku smiles, racing towards her, jumping off right at her as she goes to block his first attack. He didn't want to embarrass her, however, he also didn't want to hurt her. So, in a way, he had to manage to use his powers, but also he had to make sure he didn't hurt her. So, using his cursed energy, flowing it around his hands, he would go in, punching at her. However, he would make sure that she would be able to dodge all of these punches. He wanted to make her look good. So as she would dodge all of his punches, she would go in and activate her quirk on him, making him float up into the air. He is now weightless. As Izuku going up into the air, he ends up creating this lapsed blue to attract him towards it as he goes back down towards the ground, grabbing a hold of a slot in the arena that had been placed in there after damage received from another one of the battles. As Izuku grabs hold of it, he looks towards Uraraka before jumping at her, grabbing her two arms as he starts to fly up into the air once more. He uses her as leverage, twisting around, slamming her into the ground, knocking her unconscious. With the semifinals good and done, Izuku is now up against Bakugo Katsuki. As he stands there once more, smiling, arena across from each other. So we meet again. He laughs to himself. Are you ready, Bakugo? Ready to prove that you're finally stronger than me? Izuku says in a sarcastic tone, his arms spread wide open in an invitational almost sense, as Bakugo is fuming. He can't get a hold of Izuku. He can't get it out of his head. He has to prove it to everybody that he is better than him. He has to do it. Bakugo jumps at Izuku before the horn even sounds. However, the horn sounds, signifying the start of the match. With Bakugo jumping the gun, no one decides to stop it. It is the finals after all. Bakugo racing towards Izuku, sending an explosion after explosion towards him. Izuku knows he can't use any of his big techniques. If he uses, say, red, blue, or even hollow purple, it would completely destroy the arena, and it would cause everybody to pretty much get hurt or die. He can use them at very small levels. However, with this many people around, he would prefer not to. So as Izuku stands around, he starts to see Bakugo send explosions coming his way. With each passing explosion, Izuku just stands there, blocking them. Infinity is activated. Each coming attack gets stopped before it can even come close to him, being slowed down. Izuku smiles towards Bakugo, looking towards him. "You'll never be able to win, Bakugo," he says, as Bakugo continues to foam at the mouth. He can't believe it. Why can't he hit Izuku? He hates it and he doesn't understand it. As Izuku looks towards Bakugo, no attack being able to hit him, he sees Bakugo finally come in close enough. He readies his fist, lurching it forward from its ready position. A quick movement, almost as if he was tapping him. However, it was a black flash, putting cursed energy into the hit a millisecond before it even hit him, causing a black flash to go right into Bakugo, hitting him, sending him flying out of the arena, out of bounds, as the crowd erupts in cheers. They can't believe it. They had just witnessed Izuku dominate everybody, and it was amazing. They loved it. They loved every second of it. We see All For One shut the TV off before shaking his head. He's hiding something. He didn't want to use some of his abilities. I can sense it. Maybe, just maybe, I should initiate something with him. Possibly see where that could lead me. All For One says, his voice subtle, as Shigaraki eagerly nods his head. Yes, master, do it, he says. With cutting back to Izuku, we see him standing atop the podium, his arms up in the air, as we see a gold medal donned upon his chest. Bakugo in second, having to be restrained, wanting the fight to keep going, with Todoroki in third. As we see Izuku standing there, up at the podium, he walks off as the rest of his classmates congratulate him. They walk back to the classroom before they end up seeing all of these different internship letters sitting at their desks. They pick them up, reading them one by one, looking for anything that they could do, anybody that they could internship with. And Izuku would pick someone you would never expect. "Mount Lady? You picked Mount Lady of all people?" they say in shock, as they can't believe it. Mineta would walk up to Izuku, patting him on the back. "Yup, me and Izuku here, we're going to Mount Lady's agency for our internship. You know, Izuku, I never really took you for someone that was quite the boobs man like myself," he says as Izuku punches him atop the head. "That's enough out of you," he sighs with almost a soft chuckle and grin. "Well, one time after middle school, I ended up encountering her after defeating a villain or something, and I just thought it'd be funny if I went back and she recognized me. Izuku said as his class shakes their head, Uraraka especially, almost jealous in a way, as she didn't want Izuku to be internshipping with another hero teacher or another girl hero. She wanted she wanted him to be at a male internship. She was jealous that Izuku had chose Mount Lady. A small, subtle crush was beginning to form for Uraraka, and maybe some little wisps of likeness were forming in Izuku as well. As Izuku would go off towards his internship with Mineta, the two would walk in, opening the doors. Mountain Lady would greet them, looking towards them both. I never thought I'd see you again, she says, sighing at Izuku as he would smile, waving at her. Miss me? He says cockily, as she shakes her head no. No, I can't say I did. Alright. You two ready for, some hero internshipping? She says, looking towards them as the two of them jump and cock their fists, saying yes. They race off out the door, racing off towards Hosu City as they begin doing small-scale hero investigations and taking down villains. Mount Lady teaching them how to take down villains in city areas without dealing as much damage. This is helpful for Izuku, maybe not so much Mineta, as his quirk is quite the opposite of a damaging one. However, oh well, I mean, she's probably the best teacher for it, considering she can turn into a giant, so, oh well. As they begin going off, the day slowly fades and it turns into nighttime. However, with this nighttime, we end up cutting back to All for One and the League of Villains. So, are you ready? He says, looking towards Shigaraki, All for One seeing the army of Nomus standing off before him. As we see this, All for One smiles. I can't wait. So, hopefully, here's the plan. We'll release the Nomus. I'll capture this Izuku kid and then steal his quirk, leaving him useless. And then, maybe, just maybe, All Might will get involved and I'll take him down. And with a little luck, we'll manage to end up winning and taking over the Hero Corps. All for One says with Shigaraki smirking, Yes, it's all coming to plan now. Yes, he thinks to himself as All for One shakes his head. Alright, let's begin, Kirogiri. Kirogiri opens up a portal, sending villain out after villain and Nomu after Nomu into the streets of Hosu. Fires and explosions emerge as smoke fills the horizon and sky. Mount Lady, Izuku, and Mineta would look towards it, almost confused and in shock. What's going on? They think to themselves. As Izuku sees this and knows something is awry, all of them do. Mount Lady tells them to follow her as they reach Hosu, seeing Nomu after Nomu killing people, lifting cars, destroying things, these mindless creatures fighting everything in their power and in their path. Mount Lady tells them to stay there and to find somewhere safe to hide as she goes in and starts saving people. Izuku not wanting to listen and wanting to fight more of these Nomus. He had fun at the USJ, and so he knows he should have fun here as well. He jumps in yelling for Mineta to find somewhere safe, jumping in. Mineta yelling towards him, Oh, come on, Izuku, don't leave me here, he says, but it is too late. Izuku rushing towards the Nomus. As with each Nomu, Izuku easily incapacitates it. With so many, he knows he can't toy with them, ripping their arms off with his immense strength before slamming the arms back into them. He reaches towards the brain, yanking it out, seeing that is what kills it. It's almost like it's a walker from The Walking Dead. He easily incapacitates and kills all of these Nomus, taking out their brain, punching it with cursed energy, causing them to fall. However, something is strange. Izuku can sense something is wrong with his 6 eyes. The cursed energy, everything, the blindfold, it's not right. All of a sudden, a portal opens up behind him, a hand outstretched towards Izuku. However, Izuku jumps back, barely managing to dodge it. All for One steps out of the portal. Well, it seems you have managed to dodge my attack, he says, looking towards Izuku, slowly clapping his hands. I'm shocked. Not very many people are capable of that. However, it will be your last time dodging any of my attacks, he says, shooting these tendrils out of his fingers, these like microchip-esque things in static, shaking around, barreling towards Izuku. As Izuku barely manages to dodge these, dodging them, each one, as he starts breathing heavy. Jeez, this guy doesn't stop, he thinks to himself, as All for One would jump towards him. This is a worthy opponent, as Izuku smiles. Finally, however, All for One would then grab the top of Izuku's head. His fingers would start glowing as Izuku's confused at what he's doing. What? All for One stutters, his voice shaky and confused. There's no way. There's simply just no way, he says. You're corkless. Izuku flicks his arm off of his head as All for One stumbles backwards in complete and utter shock. What? What are you talking about? I'm not corkless, Izuku says, peeling off his blindfold, revealing his eyes. You see these? This is my cork. This is my power. All for One shakes his head. I don't know what the hell you are and what the hell you're using. But it's no cork. It's no cork at all. I should have been able to steal it, he says, a sudden flash of anger flashing over him. No. You will die here, once and for all, he says, tendrils racing towards Izuku once more. However, Izuku manages to dodge each one of them. He's had enough. This guy is seriously freaking him out, and so he's had enough. He races in, cursed energy at his hands, punching All for One very easily, sending him flying back. All for One manages to stand out of the rubble, cracking his neck in pain. He winces, sighing. All right, kid. I see you've got some potential. Let's see how you use it, he says once more, flying towards him. However, Izuku says his words. Domain expansion. Unlimited void, he says, as his domain expansion opens up, ensnaring All for One within it. He's looking and in shock. All of these different things opening beneath him. He can't believe it. Izuku stands before him, looking at him. It's over. Can't you see? He says, All for One not able to say anything. As Izuku uses his hollow technique purple, sending a giant ball of purple destructive power barreling towards All for One as it lands direct contact with him. All for One now barely grasping at life. Izuku had decided it wasn't worth it to send an all-out purple at him in this domain expansion. And because of that, that would go back to haunt him. As Izuku sees that All for One is unconscious, he looks around, looking and seeing that all of the Nomus have been defeated. All Might would jump down from its city top, grabbing All for One, easily putting on these cork erasing handcuffs onto his hands. I don't know how you managed to do it, young Midoriya, but I'll explain later, he says, taking All for One off to a maximum security prison. Shigaraki would stare on from the TV screen, the news helicopter explaining what had just happened, his mouth on the floor and in complete shock. He can't believe it. Izuku had managed to defeat All for One. And easily, within an instant, it just made no sense. He couldn't believe it. As Izuku is standing there, just almost confused, sighing to himself, we cut forward Izuku going back to his house. The next day, walking into his school, with Nezu, All Might, and Night Eye would be sitting there waiting for him, asking him to meet them in the conference room. Izuku walks in almost confused, wondering what is going on, before All Might would tell him what had happened. Look, son, you've managed to defeat the most powerful villain in the entire country. And I'm quite speechless from it. You see, my quirk, one for all, it has been passed down through generations to me, to defeat that one man, All for One. I have been tasked with defeating him and taking out All for One once and for all. However, you have managed to do it, and with ease. Might I say I'm quite shocked. I don't really know what to say. Izuku looks on, almost confused almost. What? Really? That can't be the strongest guy in Japan, can he? He says, as All Might and Night Eye nod their heads yes. And his strength rivals that of even mine. And for you to defeat him, especially without breaking a sweat, I think it deserves something. If you can manage to pass your final exams here in the next coming weeks, we'll push you through into the hero licensing exam early so that you can get your license and become a hero early. This is a one-time thing that we never thought we would do, but just the sheer level of power makes sense for you to be out there fighting crime rather than in here trying to learn how. Izuku nods his head, saying, okay, I understand. Weeks pass, with it finally being time for the final exams. Izuku walks in, ready and prepared. His final test before he takes the hero licensing exam. As Izuku sits there, he sees that he is matched up once again alone. However, this time he is matched up against All Might. His classmates are confused and in shock. He can't believe it. Even he can't believe it. All Might was matched up solely against him? Maybe, just maybe, this was going to be a true test of strength. He said All for One rivaled him. Maybe that means he's better? As Izuku would walk into the city, the villain All Might would stare on down towards Izuku, a smile written all over his face. Izuku, he would call towards him, landing right in front of him. Izuku would jump back, not taking any time to think or process, sending a maximum cursed energy output blue right towards All Might, guiding this ball of destructive energy around, leaving a crater in its wake as all of the buildings come in and converge onto it. All Might, looking shocked, jumps back, trying to avoid it, but gets sucked in as well, taking an insane amount of damage. As Izuku subsides the blue, All Might stands up, coughing blood, just completely in pain. He can't believe his eyes. That was so powerful. As Izuku then smirks. If you think that was bad, just wait for this, he says, a red orb, reversal red, appearing on his finger as he sends it right towards All Might, as it sends him flying backwards right into a building. Blood continues to cough out of All Might's mouth as steam begins appearing on him. No, no, not now, not now, he says to himself before poofing into Small Might, the weakened form of him. This kid, he's insane. I can't believe it. He thinks to himself as Izuku races towards him. All Might puffs into his Big Might form once again, jumping towards Izuku, reaching towards him, going for a punch once again, but Izuku dodges it before chopping All Might's neck, knocking him out. The horn sounds. Izuku had passed, managing to defeat All Might. His classmates couldn't believe it. They are in shock. None more in shock than Uraraka. She rushes towards Izuku. Oh my, I can't believe... Her words fumbling over each other. He puts up a hand. It's okay, Uraraka, calm down. I know. I just managed to defeat All Might, he says, his mood completely changing. He is now in one of total surprise and happiness. He can't believe it, and it was amazing. He never felt more alive. The hero he looked up to, he had managed to easily defeat with these powers that he had managed to unlock and see. With that, we see Izuku walk into the conference room once again, this time only All Might and Nezu. Okay, Izuku, Nezu says with a sigh. Because of you managing to defeat All Might going all out today, I think it is only fitting that we graduate you early. However, terms of UA graduation is you must hold a hero license. Your hero license exam is Saturday at 6 a.m. sharp. Don't be late. You'll be the only UA student there. Don't make yourself known or else you'll get targeted, he says as Izuku nods his head, yes, walking off. Izuku would end up walking in that Saturday in confusion. He seemed to be the only single there. Everyone else was wearing their costumes and were brandishing their hero school all over them. None more than the people wearing that silly one hero school hat that happened to be the rival of UA. Many kids would come up to Izuku asking him what school he went to, some even recognizing him as UA due to the sports festival, with Izuku just saying he's here as a single, which they're confused. A single? You can only even take this exam if you're a part of a hero school. What do you mean a single? He shrugs his shoulders. I don't know. I was just told to show up here, and they had a card for me. That's all I really know, he says, putting his hands above and behind his head. Okay, they think to themselves as we cut to see Izuku now standing with 3 targets all over him. He has to eliminate people as well as not be eliminated himself. As the buzzer sounds, Izuku grabs his ball before racing off towards anybody and anybody. He sees all of these people around as he throws his ball towards each one of them, throwing any ball he can find, landing hits on their targets, easily able to eliminate multiple people, allowing him to move on to the next part of the test. With the next part of the test, we see it is a rescue portion while dealing with villains, where Gang Orca would be the main villain in this. Izuku smiles to himself, thinking he can finally have some fun with this, as Gang Orca would appear, the timer starting. Everyone had to either take out 3 villains or rescue 3 survivors. As Izuku would jump in, his forms and cursed energies at the ready, as Gang Orca would send his henchmen racing towards Izuku. Izuku would laugh, thinking this as a joke, easily taking down each one of these henchmen with his cursed energy, easily taking them out with 1 punch. Izuku managing to dodge all of their blows, taking them out before only Gang Orca was left. Well, if it isn't the boy that managed to defeat All Might, might I say I'm impressed. However, he screeches this sort of echoing screech like he's like an orca would as Izuku covers his ears. He's not having this. Izuku reaches up his hands, creating a hollow purple in his hand, sending it flying at Gang Orca as it is too big for Gang Orca to dodge. The hollow purple makes direct contact with him, knocking him out as Izuku would hold it back, making sure it didn't kill him. With Gang Orca now unconscious, the rest of everybody could focus on getting as many survivors and hostages as they could to safety, giving everyone points. With Izuku now passing his hero licensing exam, he could pass UA, and so he walks into UA, showing Nezu his license, as Nezu would laugh. Well, Izuku, you will be the first and quite possibly the only student to graduate UA early. Congratulations. Not even All Might could have graduated early. Your feats of strength are one of immeasurable success, and I hope that you continue that as a hero. Good job. Izuku nods his head, reaching out his arm towards Nezu as he shakes Nezu's paw. As Nezu walks off, looking at his hero license, he would then realize, wait, I need to get picked up by an agency. However, just as he was thinking that, he would get a call from Night Eye. Night Eye's agency would pick him up, however, on one condition. He had to help them with a certain villain raid that was going down very, very soon. Izuku the next day would walk in to Night Eye's agency as he would see Night Eye sitting there. So, are you ready to help, Izuku? I see you've managed to somehow pass UA early. Might I say I'm impressed. However, your strength, don't become too confident with it. Your future could be filled with sorrow if you do. Izuku nods his head. Yes, sir, he says, still a new hero and still having to be sort of a subordinate to those around him. Night Eye would end up explaining to Izuku all of what was going down with the Overhaul raid. How Overhaul had a kid named Eerie there that he was using to create cork erasing bullets. As Izuku would hear this, he would nod his head. Okay. So we have to go in, rescue the girl, and take down Overhaul. Night Eye would nod. Precisely. That is exactly what we have to do. Finally, a week would pass as it was now the day of the Overhaul raid. Izuku would suit up along with all the other heroes there before racing on in, blowing through the door with Fat Gum there at the ready along with Izuku on the forefront, looking for any villains that would be there to try and take them down. However, there were strangely none. Izuku, racing through the halls, would see that there is no henchman anywhere around. However, this was until they found a mysterious door. Opening it would lead to an elevator and a giant staircase. This staircase led down to the real base. All of the heroes would quickly funnel down the staircase and through the elevator, finally making it towards the first floor, or the bottom floor, smashing through any doors, finally seeing the henchmen. However, they had guns at the ready, and these guns would be equipped with the cork erasing bullets. They would send these bullets flying out, shooting them everywhere. However, all of the heroes would somehow manage to dodge, taking out these villains and these henchmen. However, there were multiple villains that would end up preoccupying heroes, leaving Night Eye, Izuku, and Mirio to end up fighting Overhaul. We see Izuku, Night Eye, and Mirio all there, looking around, looking for Overhaul. However, they hear a gunshot blast. A bullet pierces through the upper half of Izuku's chest as he coughs out blood, dropping to a knee. What the hell? Izuku says, looking back as Overhaul is pointing a revolver at all three of them. He shoots another bullet, hitting Mirio as well, before shooting another, barely managing to hit Night Eye. All three of them had managed to get hit by the quirk erasing bullet. Overhaul walks towards them, walking at all three of them. Who would have thought it'd be so easy to take you guys out? I'm shocked. Now, prepare to die, he says, taking off his glove, reaching out his arm outstretched towards them. Izuku, however, would realize he could still feel cursed energy and could still use it. He instantly reinforces the wound before using reverse curse technique to somehow heal it as the bullet falls out of Izuku's chest. Overhaul looks confused, his hand recoiling back as Izuku grabs hold of it, twisting him around, twisting his forearm, burning the skin, slamming him into the wall. As he sees both Mirio and Night Eye knocked out, the damages of the bullet fully taking effect. He sees Overhaul take off both of his gloves before slamming his hands into the floor. This rock in the floor comes jaggedy up, barreling at Izuku as the ceiling begins to fall above them. Izuku jumps up, barely managing to dodge the rock as he jumps back, sending a lapse blue right at it, allowing for all the rock that Overhaul had just sent up to come flying into it, magnetized almost, sent right into it, leaving an opening for Izuku. He jumps right at Overhaul, using a black flash right into his stomach, sending him flying backwards as blood starts spewing out of the wound. He can't hold it any longer. He falls down to one knee as he starts coughing. No, I can't lose. I can't, he says to himself as he begins to start shaking, his quirk fully going insane as beams and pillars start appearing out of the ground, lurching towards Izuku, going at him, trying to reach him. However, Izuku manages to dodge all of it, reaching back towards Overhaul, sending another black flash, hitting him right in his chest. However, once again, it wouldn't do enough. He slams his hands right back down into the floor. This is when Izuku had enough. He appears right behind Overhaul, ripping both of Overhaul's arms off, enabling his quirk Overhaul useless. With no fingers and no arms, he can't use it, and he had been effectively terminated almost. With that, we see the police surround the building, rushing in with the main villain defeated. Izuku sees that Night Eye and Mirio are sped off to the hospital along with Eri, where they are pronounced quirkless. Their quirks had managed to be erased. Izuku just completely shocked by this, as he would get tested as well and would once again be told he is quirkless. Not only is this the third time that Izuku had found out that he was quirkless, it was almost eye-opening. Maybe this cursed energy really wasn't a quirk. Maybe it was something else entirely. With Izuku thinking that, he shakes his head. I just can't believe this. There's no way, right? There's simply no way that I'm quirkless. Oh well. I managed to defeat both All Might and All for One, and managed to defeat them all while being quirkless? He thinks to himself. However, All Might races in, finding Izuku. Izuku, All for One, managed to escape. Izuku turns, his face dropping. What? What do you mean he managed to escape? He's not in his cell anymore. He's gone. There's no way, Izuku says, as they both race off towards the prison. All for One had managed to escape. And not only that, while Izuku was fighting Overhaul and during the entire Overhaul raid with Night Eye, his class at the forest training camp had managed to be attacked once again. Izuku would just now hear about this and find out that Bakugo had been kidnapped, and they were basically kidnapping him and holding him hostage. Izuku, hearing this, would realize that they're gearing up for something, gearing up for a final battle. And not only that, they were trying to get them to come to them. With Bakugo kidnapped, they wanted the heroes there. They wanted the heroes to come searching for them. And they had to. They couldn't just let Bakugo get kidnapped and sit idly by. So, with Bakugo being kidnapped, the plans for capturing Bakugo would go very similarly, except Izuku would be in on them. He is now a hero, of course. And so, with that, Izuku would end up going with them towards the League of Villains, basically, sort of, attack. They went in towards the League of Villains attack with Izuku there. Kamui Woods, Mount Lady, Best Jeanist, all racing in, easily capturing Shigaraki and the League of Villains. However, this is what All For One wanted. As we see All For One begin clapping once again, his slow clap echoing throughout the bar. Well, it appears you fell right into my trap. You see, it wasn't Bakugo you were after. A little someone had managed to give me some intel about your best up-and-coming hero. Might I say, Izuku Midoriya. Izuku stands up, the goosebumps on the back of his neck and the hairs as well begin standing up. Where's he going with this? My young student, you could say, Toga, her quirk, a blood quirk. It allows her to suck the blood of anybody and transform into them. She has actually been with you this entire time as your young female student, Ochako Uraraka. You see, this entire time, I have actually been using her, turning her into a weapon, creating her into something that could destroy your prized protege in Izuku Midoriya. All For One says, his eyes cold, looking and staring towards Izuku. No, he couldn't have. You didn't, he said, his voice now shifting from that confident, cocky, and calm tone to a more angry one. He's furious. What could All For One be implying? Yes, and right about now, with all you UA teachers here, I'm sure your students are busy trying to manage to fight Toga, while she takes you guys out one by one from the inside as Uraraka. However, that's not the point now. We cut back to see Uraraka, or should I say Toga, racing throughout the halls of the UA dorms, racing around trying to take out as many people as possible. She had managed to somehow kill multiple students. These students being Mineta, Asui, even Mina, killing these students luring them in, killing them. However, Todoroki would manage to capture her. He would see that she would be doing all this, and he would rush in, seeing the blood right on the back of her pant leg, realizing something was awry before Toga would reveal her true colors, jumping at Todoroki before he would send a torrent of fire flying her way, burning her before encasing her in ice. With Toga subdued, sadly, but with 3 casualties, we cut back in the past, a week prior, as Uraraka was captured by Mr. Compress. Within that week, Uraraka was placed in a capsule, a tube, as energy would be forming around her. She would be pumped full of quirks, any quirk, strength quirk, matter manipulation quirks, anything that All For One could get his hands on, pumped full, and quirk-enhancing drugs as well, turning her into the ultimate obedient weapon. And because of that, her body would mutate. She would begin turning into a Nomu as well. And with that, we cut back to present day. We see Izuku shaking his head in fury and in hate as the portal opens. No, 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 he says, his voice raising every time as Uraraka's lifeless Nomu body steps out, the mindless creature screeching in pain. Izuku shakes his head, and so do many of the UA students watching on the TV after they had taken Toga out and called the teachers. There's no way. They got so many of us, they say softly. They can't believe it. Uraraka is gone, no more. Izuku, tears streaming down his face. No, why? Simple, my friend, simple. If I wanted to defeat you, I had to pull some strings. And it seems that my strategy here is working. Good luck, young Midoriya, he says, as he sends Uraraka's Nomu flying towards Izuku. She screeches as she manipulates matter around him, forming these sort of space bubbles of destruction energy sent flying towards Izuku. He somehow managed to dodge, not wanting to hurt her. He can't. He didn't want to admit it, but he had a crush on her, and he was going to ask her out. But now he can't. Now he can't do that. As Izuku would race around, dodging all of these matter destruction orbs around him, as Uraraka would screech in pain and agony, jumping towards him, grabbing Izuku's head with her two giant hands, squeezing his head as if she was trying to pop him like a human water balloon. Izuku, tears flowing down her eyes, would barely be able to shake his head. He doesn't want to have to hurt her. Please, Uraraka, please, I know you're in there. I know you're in there, he says, pleading with her. However, nothing happens until a subtle, small tear falls out of Uraraka's eye. Yes, Uraraka, I know you're in there. I know it. This tear would continue as tears would start flowing out of the Nomu's eyes until All for One would see this. Enough toying with him, Uraraka. His voice piercing through the moment. Finish him. Kill him. Kill him now. Izuku shaking his head, please, as he would feel her grip get tighter. Izuku, his brain feeling as though it was getting squeezed out before he would clench his fist and would slam it into Uraraka's chest. A black flash. She would go flying backwards as Izuku would land, using reverse curse technique to heal any injuries on his head. I can't believe you did this, he would say, staring in hatred towards All for One. Don't be mad at me, young Izuku. Be mad at your friends for letting her get captured. Be mad at yourself for not being there for her. That's enough, Izuku says, along with All Might standing now behind him. It's over, All for One. You can't defeat us both. If that is what you think, All Might would leap towards All for One as the two would begin a battle for the ages, while Izuku would walk towards Uraraka's body. She would be dusting herself off, the Nomu waiting, looking, finding Izuku. A screech would echo, bouncing off the skyscraper walls, as Izuku would find her, sitting in a bunch of rubble before standing up. Please, Uraraka, fight it. Fight anything. Fight the urge to listen to him. However, it was too late. She was Nomuized and wouldn't listen to him anymore. That small form of emotion within her, it was long gone. She no longer had it, as Izuku would shake his head in sorrow. I can't believe this. He would breathe heavy. You really are gone. Oh well. Oh well, he says once more, almost sad, completely devastated by the news. He would reach back his fist, another black flash right into her chest, sending her flying back. However, he would hear a maniacal laugh once more. What did I tell you, All Might? All for One's voice piercing the air. I told you you couldn't win. So what made you think you could? Was it that brat Izuku? Was it? Please, you couldn't have put so much hope in him. I managed to completely distract him with that little plaything of his. His little crush turned into your defeat, All Might. Your silly emotions rule you weak, he says, chopping All Might down, killing him as Izuku looked on. No way. Everyone around him was dying, and he had nothing to do. He could do nothing about it. He wasn't acting. He was still frozen in his mind. The only reason he wasn't using all of his power was because he was distracted. It was almost as if all these new things were being flown into him, like he was the recipient of his unlimited void, of his domain expansion. And because of that, he was just so distracted. All for One would reach out towards Izuku once again. Uraraka, he would call towards her. Come here, he would say as Uraraka would appear before him almost instantly, her speed unmatched. It's time to stop playing with him. Finish him for me, he would say as Uraraka would screech, racing towards Izuku, punch after punch landing on him as he would stand there completely in shock. His cursed energy reinforcement would work to negate most of the attacks. However, that still wouldn't take away from the fact that Izuku was getting hit. I don't know. What should I do? What should I do? Izuku says before jumping back. A new wave of determination washed over him. What would Uraraka want? She knows I have to stop this, even if it means fighting her. He jumps back, his finger at the ready, doing the hand sides before using his hollow technique, Purple. He looks towards Uraraka, using an extremely powerful hollow purple, sending it flying at her. This destructive energy would instantly land on Uraraka's skin, eviscerating it, sending her flying back, the destructive power being too much for her, completely destroying her, sending her all the way back into a building, barely any of her body left. However, it was still moving, slowly regenerating, tentacles forming. However, it bought Izuku time. He looked towards All for One, his blindfold now up, revealing one of his eyes. It's over. Once and for all, he says, jumping towards him. All for One would go for a punch, however, it would be blocked by Infinity. He couldn't do anything. Domain expansion. Izuku would mutter the words. Unlimited void. The void would appear around All for One as he would think, no, 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 he would say out loud before his thoughts and his mind would be completely interrupted by all of the thoughts flowing into him. No, I can't lose like this. It's over, Izuku mutters to himself, a look of hatred towards All for One. You didn't have to bring her into this. His eyes staring at him with rage. Now, feel every bit of pain you put onto her. he says, using his maximum energy output into the hollow technique hollow purple, right at All For One. The guaranteed hit, the final hit, would come right at All For One as he would scream in agony, the destruction completely destroying every part of his body, melting him like acid. As Izuku would remove the domain expansion, letting it subside, he would see nothing left at the feet of where All For One stood. He would sigh before hearing rubble moving. He would walk over towards it, lifting it up to see Uraraka's body flailing around, looking for her master of All For One as she would continue regenerating. A tear would hit the ground before even more. "I'm sorry," he said, looking towards her before sending a black flash right into her brain, killing her, putting her out of her misery. With the final battle over and All For One and Uraraka no longer alive, Izuku would go back to his life as a hero. His subtle crush had evolved. Him seeing her damaged had made him realize how much he liked her. However, it was too late. He had lost the one he loved, and he had to live with that. And because of that, he would have a few short years of being a hero before deciding to move away. Due to being quirkless, he realized that no quirk could ever manage to touch him. His cursed energy and techniques were far too powerful, and so he would move away before opening up a school for people with high amounts of cursed energy, turning into a very similar teacher that Gojo was in Jujutsu Kaisen. And with Izuku, the most powerful person probably on the planet, due to no quirk being able to rival cursed energy, we are going to stop the what if there. I hope you all did enjoy this what if. It was really fun to make. I mean, it's quite hard not to make Izuku OP with Gojo's immense power and abilities, so I hope you all did enjoy this overpowered Izuku. I thank you all for watching. Please comment your what if suggestions down in the comment sections below, and also make sure to join the Discord. I thank you all for watching once again, and goodbye.